Hey everyone, welcome to On Tap. I'm Chris, and today is a special episode where we are going to do a taste test of all of the different lager beers featured in the previous American Craft Brewery episodes. Today is a special episode where we sample different lagers. This is indeed a lager taste test. What this means is I'm going to be trying beers made by Sam Adams, Founders, New Belgium, and Abita. These were the four breweries that made lager-specific beers that I tried in previous episodes, and the links will be down below. So I realized that not every brewery can make the cut, but that's simply because when I was doing the Allagash episode, for example, I wasn't trying a lager that they made. So Allagash makes excellent beers, but there wasn't a lager that I had, therefore they can't really make this cut. Sorry. But the other four, they did make the cut since I was trying lagers manufactured by them. Or brewed by them, rather, not manufactured. These aren't car parts, this is beer. What are we talking about? The other thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be sampling these in basically the order of the episodes as they were featured in the previous shows. So we'll have Sam Adams first, then we'll have New Belgium, then Founders, and then finally Abita. So without any further ado, let's get started. Now first up we have the Sam 76. This was featured in the first episode on Sam Adams, a refreshing lager. Haven't had it in quite a while actually, but let's give it a taste. So it's slightly hazy as I remember, yeah, sort of straw yellow, pale yellow, but definitely a bit of haze there. Very, very sort of light, not much of a smell, maybe very, very subtle citrus. And yeah, that's quite fun. It's quite bright, and it's got kind of, it's not a lemon flavor, and I may have said this in the first episode, it's not quite a lemon flavor, but there's just this very slight sort of, the spirit of citrus, kind of just hanging back there at the back of your palate, very clean and very crisp and refreshing. This is definitely an exceptionally crispy lager beer, which is very nice. You want, a good lager like that if you're going to be drinking, more than one, something that's easy to drink, but has a little bit of character to it, and that definitely has this. Let's take another taste. Yeah. Well, now that we tried the Sam 76, it's time to try the Sam Regular. Let's give this one a try. This is the classic Sam Adams Boston Lager, and of course, yeah, sort of a amber color, which makes sense. Sort of a Vienna lager is going to have an amber color, which this is. This is a Vienna lager. And yes, that nice kind of slightly more rich, malty, balanced and kind of smooth flavor comes through. Very nice, very easy to drink. Good kind of multi-purpose lager. You could kind of have it outdoors, in a pub, daytime, nighttime, really whenever. Whereas, like I said, this is more of a fresh, crisper, refreshing, summer beer. And yeah, it's just got a nice kind of balance of flavors. It's just a little bit more complex than kind of your basic garden variety lager. Nice color and just very, very enjoyable overall. Yeah, the kind of the caramel maltiness is kind of very nice. Just a little bitter, but like not too much. So now that we've gone through Sam Adams and we have sort of the exact same ranking as in that original episode, let's mix it up by introducing some new beers that have not faced off against one another yet. I'm talking the New Belgium Shift Pale Lager. And if I remember correctly, this one also was quite good, and I was sort of surprised by just like how good quality it was, despite the fact that it wasn't particularly complex. Oh yes, so it's much hazier, and it's a darker gold. So it's a much darker gold than this, but it's certainly not as amber as this. But yeah, it's just a nice golden color, good head there. Yeah, not really much smell, but these are lagers, so what can you do? Yeah, so that's, so I This has a more kind of a honey undertone to it. That's quite nice. It's a little bit, there's a little bit more, almost, I don't want to say viscosity. It's still obviously very liquid beer, but there's something about that underlying honey flavor that is giving this a bit more kind of flavor in the palate beyond just kind of like a crisp beer. Now, I wouldn't say it's going to beat out the Sam Adams, but nonetheless, it is quite nice, quite a nice beer. And I think the reason for that is there's just not kind of extra stuff to it. These are just a little bit more fun. So moving on to our next beer, we have the Founders Solid Gold. So that's the thing. This, given how good the other Founders beers are, this one I find just to be a little, it's just not very special. I don't really feel like I'm tasting very much. It just feels very basic. Certainly it is better than certain beers, which shall remain nameless, but are produced in very high quantities in the United States, often in cans. But nonetheless, for sort of a lager produced by a good American craft brewery, this is not particularly knocking my socks off. It just has very little flavor. Now is the first of 3 Abita lagers, starting with the Abita Amber. It has a nice, very nice amber color, similar to the Sam Adams Boston Lager. And I think, yeah, and with this, I think it has a bit of more of a caramel aroma to it. Not much, but just a tiny bit, which is a little bit more than I can say for sort of most of the other lagers, which really, they don't tend to have aromas to them. So let's give it a taste. And that's very nice. That's very nice. It's got, and I remember this sort of, it has just a nice, smooth, caramel, malty kind of flavor to it. It's very easy to drink. There's more going on there than with just kind of a basic lager. It's just a very enjoyable beer. And in terms of ranking, it's definitely above these. Now, and we might have to do a sort of sudden death elimination. It's certainly here with the Sam Adams. Yeah, very nice, very enjoyable. So, moving on, we have the Abita Strawberry Lager. A nice, good golden color on this. And yes, I can definitely smell those strawberries. This is, of all of these beers so far, this is the one that has by far the strongest aroma. So, yeah, and that tastes like strawberries. It's an interesting experience to have with a beer. It's not something you normally drink, and I think that's nice, but the strawberry flavor is just a little too much. It's just a little too sweet. So in terms of ranking, I'm gonna say it's still above the Founders just because this doesn't have much flavor. This at least has a strawberry flavor. It's just one that's a little too much. It's a little too sweet. And at least with the New Belgium, kind of that honey is a bit, it sort of worked in, I think, a bit better. You don't have kind of this sense of just, all I'm tasting is honey. With this, really, I'm tasting strawberry. That's what this is. All right, so last but not least, we have Purple Haze. Let's crack it open. And for those of you who are not sure what Purple Haze is, this is a raspberry lager manufactured by Abita, or brewed. I keep saying manufactured, brewed by Abita. Now, the reason it's called Purple Haze is because it has a very slight, very slight purple tinge, and it's a little bit hazy, hence the name. So, and it does smell like raspberry. It does indeed. Just like the strawberry lager smells like strawberries, this smells like raspberry. Yep, and just as I remembered, this has a very nice, fun raspberry flavor to it. So here's the thing about ranking all of these. Now, the thing is that in the Abita episode, I ranked these in a way where I gave Purple Haze the #1 spot simply because it's a really fun beer to drink. It's got this really nice mix of raspberry kind of woven into what you think of as just the basic structure of a lager. And it's also just, it's got this nice kind of carbonated, fun feel. So the good aspects of drinking a seltzer or something like that. So it's still a beer, but it really pops in your mouth. But the thing that I'm struggling with is in the scheme of lagers as a whole, kind of what would the best lagers as a whole be? I'm sort of stuck because I don't feel like in this particular video where we're grading all of the lagers in relation to each other rather than what are innovative and interesting and unique things that a brewery might be doing, that it feels kind of fair to put this in first place. So it's definitely up there. This is definitely a top lager. These four for sure are here. But I think, and I realize that I'm backtracking here on how I ranked these in the Abita video, since this was behind this one. I'm judging these slightly differently. I want to have a sudden death between the Abita Amber and the Sam Adams Boston Lager. So here it goes. All right, so we've got these 5 ranked for sure, but the question still remains about these 2. So I'm gonna pour them out, and there's the Sam Adams. So I'm gonna start with the Sam Adams. It's very nice, it's very sharp. It has a little bit of dryness, a little bit of hops, some malt, some caramel, all kind of mixed together. Now the Abita. So the Abita is much smoother. The Abita is smoother and the elements are more muted. In the Sam Adams, the flavors are sharper and they're drier, they're more dry, and they're more sort of present. But the general flavor profiles, I think, are sort of in a similar range to each other. And so you know what I'm gonna do? I'm going to basically declare these 2 are the winners, sort of in their own respective way. These 2 tied for first place. This is my ranking. Let's get into the assessment. All right, so this is the final ranking. In last place, we have Founders Solid Gold. This just really, it doesn't have much flavor to it. It's just a very generic lager. Next, we've got the Abita Strawberry Lager. This is interesting. It gets points for the fact that it is quite inventive. This is really the first strawberry lager I've kind of ever had, and I will say it does have a strawberry flavor to it, and from what I understand and everything I know about Abita, it's not artificial flavoring. These are indeed strawberries. These are strawberries that are sort of being soaked into the beer during the brewing process. The only thing is, the strawberry flavor is really, it's a little much. Like you'd want to be on a camping trip outside during the day in, I don't know, North Carolina or Louisiana in June, and this would be fine, but I probably wouldn't have more than one. New Belgium. and I always get this wrong. New Belgium Shift. Pretty good lager. It's got sort of a nice honey undertone to it. Not kind of too much. Very easy to drink. Sam 76, very nice beer, very refreshing, good summer beer. And what it does a really good job of is kind of bring in that sort of noticeable, but not too strong kind of general citrus flavor, but that doesn't overpower the general strength of the lager as a whole. And this makes this, of kind of beers here, along with the Purple Haze, I think, an excellent summer beer. And then the Purple Haze, the other, I would argue, best summer beer overall. And really, this is just so great with the way the raspberry is mixed into the sort of lager structure. Both of these beers do an excellent job of mixing in a very bold in this case, more kind of medium bold, notable, but not as bold as this one, flavor into that kind of general lager feel. And it just gives for a really fun experience. Honestly, even if you don't think that a beer that's got some fruit flavor in it sounds appealing at all, if you're just like, that sounds ridiculous, why would I drink a beer with raspberry in it? Seriously, just give this beer a try. You might be surprised. It's named after a Jimi Hendrix song, and it tastes like raspberries, and it's got all the benefits of sort of a seltzer where it's all carbonated and fun, and it's just kind of a party in your mouth. But it's still bold enough and specific enough that I can't put it in the top 2 spots. Ultimately, these two are in the top spot because I do think they characterize the best of what a lager is. As I said, it's something that is easy to drink. It is not controversial. You could kind of give it to anyone and they'd say, that tastes fine. But it also has more character than just a really flat generic beer. There's more flavor to it, and it's versatile. It's something you can have whether it's nighttime, whether it's daytime, whether it's the summer, whether it's the winter. You can drink it in so many different situations, and it's just got nice kind of flavor to it. And this one, again, is more subtle. So if you want those flavors, which are gonna be sort of caramel malt flavors, just very comforting. What I kind of think of as like, malt for me is like the beer equivalent of kind of comfort food. It's just very smooth, it's very soft, and it just makes you feel good. And that's what I like so much about good malt in beers. And Abita has this for a lager, at least for all the ones I've tasted, you know, in spades. And the Sam Adams is just sort of this nice classic mix of all of those flavors you have in the Abita, but just dialed up more. So if you prefer the beer to be a bit more, you know, a bit more dry, a bit more sharp and hoppy, and the caramel is, you know, mixed more in with those other flavors. That's more, it's more sort of crisp. It's just kind of all those things. That's what the Sam Adams Boston Lager is going to be. You know, ultimately, you know, drink what you want, but in terms of the different sorts of flavors that you could experience with a lager, there are quite a number of flavors even amongst these 7 lagers. That's my assessment of these lagers. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you agree with my assessment? Do you totally disagree? Do you agree with maybe the points I made, but you think kind of the reasoning that I have is off, or I should be weighting things, sort of the variables in sort of different ways? Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear. Just, you know, be civil, be polite, you know, be nice to your fellow commenters, and I will see you in the next episode of On Tap.